皆さん、こんにちは。ファン研究グループのオンライン講演会の時間です。今日は、文化を超えるポケモン、マレーシアのポケモンカードゲームのコミュニティということで、ですね、マレーシアにおいて、日本文化の、日本のポピュラー文化の需要と、あと特にその、ポケモンカードゲーム、私全然詳しくないんですけれども、ポケモンカードゲームの需要について、クーカーリドさんに、来ていただき、お話しいただきます。クーカーリドさんは、実はその筑波大学マレーシア校の、学生なので、ちょっとこの動画シリーズは基本的に研究者を呼ぶことにしていたのですが、クーカーリドさんは、今年のサンフランシスコで行われるポケモンカードゲーム世界大会の出場者になっておりますので、それを、それは専門家と言っていいだろうということで、お呼びしました。クーカーリドさんは、最初に55分間、事前に、録画した、レクチャー動画を見ていただいて、その後に、ご紹介いたします。というわけで、では早速、動画の上映に移りたいと思います。
Hi and good morning everyone. My name is Khalid and today I'm going to be talking about Pokémon Across Cultures, the TCG community in a Malaysian context. Before I begin, I would like to express my gratitude and thanks to Professor Watabe Koki from the University of Tsukuba, Malaysia for granting me this opportunity to be able to talk about my experience in playing Pokemon as well as my experience in the Malaysian community and my journey to qualifying to the Pokemon World Championships. So today I'll be sharing with you my insight as well as my journey towards playing the Pokemon trading card game and my eventual journey towards qualifying for the Pokemon World Championships, an international tournament that brings together the best players from around the world. So as I said, hi, I'm Khalid. I'm a Pokemon TCG player based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I've been playing the Pokemon trading card game, or PTCG, for around 3 years and recently finished as a finalist in the 2026 Malaysia Master Ball League. Through this, I've qualified for the Pokemon World Championships in San Francisco later this year, representing Malaysia. So, in this presentation, I will discuss and talk about my journey and how and why I got into Pokemon, my journey as a competitive player, and the Pokemon community in Malaysia. So, let's talk about how and why, what got me into Pokemon. So, it actually dates all the way back to a few years ago. I have been a huge fan of the Pokemon franchise for exactly 10 years now. Dating all the way back to 2016 when I was 13. The popular long-running franchise of Pokemon, which has been around for around 30 years. This year is actually the 30th anniversary. So Pokemon is a super popular title that came all the way from Japan and is something that most adults grew up with as a child. In my first experience, I can say that I grew up with it too as a kid. My first exposure to Pokemon was surprisingly not the trading card game or even the original video games from the Game Boy. It was the hit and popular mobile game Pokemon Go, the mobile app game that released in 2016, 10 years ago, and made waves all over the world. Everyone from their cousins and uncles had Pokemon Go on their mobile phones and were running everywhere, from their houses to the mall and to the parks as well, and just to catch some rare Pokemon to have into their collection. At the time, I was 13 years old and I was still in high school. And as the oblivious teenager I was at the time, I followed the hype and installed the app as well on my phone just to see what the game was all about. I actually downloaded it before it was even officially released in Malaysia illegally through some shitty website where you could spoof the game through a different location as it wasn't available in Malaysia at the time. So needless to say, I had no idea what Pokemon was at the moment besides Pikachu, but I believe everyone knows what Pikachu is, but I had no idea what Pokemon was at the time. So everyone in my school, even my own cousins and family were into Pokemon at the time. It was super popular, and despite never urgently liking Pokemon, I thought it would be okay if I joined on the bandwagon as well. And after countless hours of playing the mobile game, I was instantly hooked into the Pokemon franchise. I eventually wanted to venture more into the Pokemon series instead of just playing Pokemon Go. So eventually, I played the original games released for the Nintendo Game Boy in 1996. Original games such as Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red. But of course, I played it through an emulator on my mobile phone because, obtaining the original Game Boys obviously wasn't cheap at the time. So I played up until Generation 3 of the franchise, which was up until, I believe, Pokemon Emerald. So, as I said just now, Pokemon Go was like super popular and people were running from place to place to catch rare Pokemon such as Dragonite, Snorlax, and Charizard. And I do remember, running around the mall with my cousin just to catch Pokemon we hadn't had yet in our collection. And we were discussing like, maybe one day they would make trading an option in the game, similar to the original games where you could trade Pokemon with other people. So we just thought, one day if they had trading available, that would be super cool. And yeah, I actually have Snorlax, and I remember, conquering a gym with Starmie. But this was like 10 years ago. I don't play Pokemon Go anymore. So yeah. So because of the popularity of the mobile game, Pokemon goods were actually sold everywhere. You could walk into malls, to flea markets, to anime conventions, and they would be selling Pokemon goods and merchandise everywhere. So this was the exact case for Pokemon at the time. You could go, literally everywhere, and they would sell Pokemon merch. It could be official, it could be a knockoff, unofficial bootleg product. But regardless, they were still sold everywhere. I was obsessed with Pokemon at the age of 13, so I wanted some merchandise of my own. I do remember asking my uncle for a Pokemon-related present for Christmas in 2016, and I did. I actually got a Pokemon poster as a 2016 Christmas as a gift in Christmas of 2016. It was like this huge poster which had a bunch of Pokemon characters on them. So I was super ecstatic at the time. I was super happy, and then actually also bought some merch of my own. It was from a anime convention event called Comic Fiesta 2016, a super popular anime event that's held annually, usually in KLCC. But at the time, I obviously wanted some merchandise of my own, so I bought Pokemon Trainer Red's cap from the original games and also one Pokeball. So this is also another hotspot for vendors to sell Pokemon-related goods. Usually, you can walk into any anime convention nowadays, and they'd still be selling Pokemon merchandise. It's even up until now, it's like super popular and everybody knows about it. So obviously, because it's an anime event, it's much easier for people to sell and market these things. So yeah, as I said, I bought the cap or the hat of the main character of the original Pokemon games, Pokemon Trainer Red. I bought it for I think around 10-20 ringgit, and I felt like the coolest guy in the room wearing it. It's gone now. I don't know where I misplaced it, but it's somewhere in my house. And yeah, I bought a large size Pokeball, I think for around 15 ringgit. They had sold other designs as well. They had like a Great Ball and Ultra Ball. So yeah, as far as I remember, I only had these goods or merchandise back then. Now, speaking on Pokemon and its presence in Malaysia, as well as Japanese culture in Malaysia, ACG events, anime, comics, games events, and generally Japanese animation and culture, those are actually super prominent and very present in Malaysia for the longest time. I can say that there are a lot of adults who grew up alongside Japanese shows and series since they were a kid. For instance, popular series such as Naruto, Gundam, or Kamen Rider of those sort have been around in Malaysia for like the longest time that matter of fact, they actually broadcasted those shows in Malaysian television channels last time as well. I don't think they do it now anymore, but a lot of Malaysians, since they were a kid, they grew up with these, Japanese franchises. So Japanese culture and animation is like super prominent in Malaysia. Pokemon is of course no stranger to it as well. The original anime series was also broadcasted in Malaysia. The trading card game has also been around in Malaysia for over 25 plus years. There are still a lot of old and veteran players who still stick around the local community to help and guide others. There's also a rise in hobby or anime shops that focus on selling these Japanese goods or anime merchandise directly from Japan. So nowadays you can walk into Bukit Bintang in Kuala Lumpur and it feels almost like Akihabara because there's a lot of hobby shops in those malls like Sungaiwang or Lalaport. So the feeling is very uncanny, and it's crazy that you can walk into like a random place in Kuala Lumpur and there'd be like a ton of hobby shops everywhere similar to Japan. So that's great. Speaking of Japanese imported goods, you could also buy the original. Speaking of Japanese goods, you could also buy the original Japanese version of the trading card game. As Pokemon is from Japan, all of the new sets and cards are first actually released in Japan, which are then translated into English and then released worldwide. So you can also purchase the Japanese booster packs of the Japanese sets through local hobby stores or even card booths or vendors. Unfortunately, though, because Malaysia uses English cards in the tournaments, these cards can't be used in the official tournaments here. So, but collectors, however, will still buy these cards regardless of the language because it's usually for their art because they like the art, or it's for their personal collection. Everyone has a favorite Pokemon that they want to buy, so they don't really care about the language, whether it's in English or Japanese. So as you have here, there's a Mega Brave pack and a Mega Symphonia pack, which are recent packs from Japan. These are some of the latest sets they have. And speaking of Japanese cards, did you know that some players actually buy the Japanese cards of sets that are not available in English yet because they want the cards to be used as proxies, meaning like replacement cards while waiting for the English cards to release. So here I have the Bakegakure, which is a new like sort of deck that's been rising in Japan, and these cards aren't they were not available in English at the time of this recording, but they are being released soon. So I actually bought some for myself to do some testing for the World Championships, as the set is not available in English at the time of this recording. So yeah, that's an interesting thing that we can use the Japanese cards for, even though they're not legal for official tournaments in Malaysia. So I want to finally start talking about my journey in the Pokemon TCG. Of course, I've been into Pokemon for around 10 years, but actually somewhere in the middle there, I feel like after 8 years, I actually drifted apart from Pokemon as a whole. I sort of just lost interest in the franchise, and I didn't really care what was going on. I stopped playing Pokemon Go as well, and the video games, I didn't really play it, mostly because I didn't have a console at the time. But yeah, I drifted apart from Pokemon at some point due to a lack of interest as a whole. That was up until 2023, which was 3 years ago, where a good friend of mine invited me to go to a LCS, which is called a local card store or a hobby store, to pick up the Pokemon trading card game as like a new hobby. I was super skeptical at first, but eventually I was convinced and went along with him. So we went to a LCS called Toys Bar, which is a super popular hobby store nearby our area, and we picked up 2 starter decks. Funny enough, the starter decks shown here, the Sun and Moon Burning Shadows Luminous Frost theme deck, is actually not playable, and it's actually outdated in the current environment of the game. It means like it's like rotated and you can't play it in standard format anymore. So they just sold it for like really cheap. So it was like 60 ringgit for like one deck, which was considered cheap at the time. So, these are just starter decks, which are pre-constructed decks made for beginners who are just looking to get into the game. So it was just right for us to buy these and use them right off the box. And after that day, I was instantly hooked into Pokemon again. It felt like super nice to get back into the game. And it was a nostalgic feeling seeing the characters I knew and recognized 10 years ago from my teenage days in the form of shiny cardboard again now, in the present time. So yeah, this was me, learning the game. I believe I got into it starting from April 2023. So that was around 3 years ago. And I was like, super oblivious at the time. I didn't know what cards did what, I didn't even have sleeves at the time. I just took it out of the box and then just played it straight with my friends. So, it's a super good memory to look back into. And yeah, so after I was like super hooked into Pokemon again, I jumped down the rabbit hole, and I knew I had to explore further and join the local scene and community in Malaysia somehow. I searched through Facebook for local Pokemon groups as well as listings for like people selling cards I could use for my new decks. From there, I actually met up face to face with a guy and bought a few cards that I wanted off of him. I met him through Facebook, and he was kind enough to advise me on like the trading card game, and he eventually introduced me to a shop in Subang at the time called MYU Collectibles. So this is everyone from MYU. It's a local shop, hobby shop that I frequently go to. The first shop actually that I went to. So it's a local card store operating in Petaling Jaya, Selangor, and is the shop I often started going to every week for the local tournaments or gym battles as we call it. It's a small shop, but the players and the community are very, very welcome towards new players. So this is what the normal environment for the tournament looks like every week. There's a lot of players averaging around 20 to 30 people, and yeah, it's like such a lively and fun community for me. So from there, after I was introduced to it, I started going regularly, even on days where there would be no tournaments, just so I could come by to hang out and practice and test out my new decks, or learn how to get better at the game. So yeah, that's MYU, my first shop. And of course, there's other local card shops in Malaysia, depending on where you stay. In Malaysia, we follow the Japan system, which is called TPC, the Pokemon Company, to host these sort of like weekly tournaments. So most of the shops, they can host the casual tournaments weekly with a fee ranging from 25 to 30 ringgit. And upon participation, everybody receives a one booster pack and a chance to win more packs depending on your final ranking at the end of the tournament. So, if you're the first place, you're the champion, you usually get 2 or 3 more packs. And then the second place gets like 2 more packs, and then third place gets 1 extra pack. So it follows that sort of ranking after the tournament concludes. So, this is my toy, another shop I frequently go to, and this is like, a picture of me with, the rest of the players after the tournament concluded. So, yeah, there's a lot of shops in Malaysia. It really just depends what area you're in. It'll be easy for you to sort of just go around. You don't have to go like super far to play Pokemon. You can just find one that's nearby your area and then travel accordingly. So yeah, and standard. Speaking of the weekly tournament or gym battles as we call it, a standard gym battle usually lasts around 3 to 4 hours, with a minimum of 3 rounds, depending on the number of players. So the more players there are, the more rounds there are for you to play. The tournaments are conducted in BO1 or best of one Swiss rounds format. These gym battles are designed for players who want to get better at the Pokemon TCG and become more comfortable with playing matches, improve their skills by facing new opponents, and test the strength of their decks in a competitive setting, acknowledging weaknesses of the deck while making new friends in the Pokemon TCG community. So, this is another shop I frequently go to. It's super nearby my area. It's Ace Cards in Mid Valley. So, and actually, as a participation reward and sort of an incentive to get more players to play, they will give out these free gym promo cards, which are cards with like just a gym stamp on it, this blue gym stamp on it. It's like every participant receives it. So, it's sort of like incentive to get more players to join and play, the Pokemon TCG in Malaysia. So, speaking of, playing and making decks and whatnot, you must be wondering, how do we get these cards for our deck? Where do we purchase it? And how? So usually in Malaysia, what we do is that we sort of have 3 places to buy these cards generally. So the first one we have is Facebook. So in Facebook, there's Facebook groups where you can buy cards or singles from designated shops, such as I said previously, there's a Toys Bar shop, and there's an online Facebook group there as well where you can buy these cards from. You can also buy cards from WhatsApp. So we have the Mew Pokemon TCG WhatsApp group here, where you can chat with players there and then buy and sell cards, or you can even just have like casual chat discussion around like new decks, or ask them for advice. And another alternative is like physically, where you can go to weekend markets or card events, card shows, where you can buy these cards physically. So it's like a much faster and straightforward approach at buying these cards, instead of just buying them online and having to wait for them to like post it out, or you have to meet face to face and such. So when you buy online, if you're obviously unsure whether the seller is trusted or not, and actually when you're selling, you can post a picture with a timestamp on it. So this is a timestamp. It's like a paper with your name on it, and then for those who are buying but are unsure if the seller is trusted, they may ask for other people to vouch for them before buying. And so basically this is just what the average selling post looks like. Or if you want to buy, you can post as well that you want to buy these cards. So as I said, if they're unfamiliar, they can ask for people to vouch for the seller in the same group. So, and in terms of like card shows, you can also go to these card shows that are hosted weekly on the weekends, where vendors sell products and cards at their respective booths. This is a much more efficient and faster way to find and obtain cards or any products that you need. It's also much safer because you're seeing what you're getting face to face, and it's also easier to negotiate prices for cards that you need because you're right there physically. So this is also another method that I recommend if you want to buy. So this is Collect at Centerpoint. It's a weekly card market that hosts hundreds of TCG vendors and sellers every weekend. For those who don't like online shopping, can choose to find and purchase them physically. They can pick and choose from a variety of booths and find what they need on the spot, saving the time and cost of buying online. They can also offer to sell their cards to booths that are looking to buy cards as well. So this actually helps expand the community further, and it becomes easier for newer players to come and join the community by making it easier for them to buy and sell Pokemon cards. So next, I want to talk about the cost of a deck. Now that we know where and how to buy it, now we want to know the cost. We need to buy an average deck. So what I have here is Dragapult Dusknoir, which is one of the popular decks right now in the Pokemon community. So, how much do you need now that we know where to buy them? So a competitive Pokemon deck consists of 60 cards from the standard format. You can only have a maximum of 4 of each cards, excluding basic energies. So building a competitive deck costs around 350 to 550 ringgit, with most of the expense coming from staple trainer cards. These cards are used in almost every deck, hence the high quantity needed for each card. These are called staples. They are used in every other deck, so that's why you have to buy them in high quantities or amounts. So basically, in this case, the Dragapult Dusknoir deck would cost roughly 300 to 350 Malaysian ringgit. And when you buy the cards and you have the deck, you also need the sleeves to protect your cards. So standard card sleeves cost around 50 ringgit. Bringing it to a total of around 400 Malaysian ringgit. This is just base rarity without trying to maximize the rarity of your deck. So, the majority of this, as I said, comes from the staple trainer cards that appear in many other decks because they provide consistency and stuff. Since the cards are widely used across multiple archetypes, their demand is higher, making them one of the most expensive components of a deck. So it's not just the Pokemon; you have the trainer cards, as well the items and the energy and stuff like that. So yeah, now that we know how much it costs, as I said just now, that was the base rarity only. So for working adults with disposable incomes, oftentimes they will upgrade their decks by purchasing the highest rarity versions of their cards. These premium cards often feature alternate artwork, special fall treatments, or exclusive designs. They don't provide any sort of different gameplay. They are the exact same as the normal card, but it just allows them to make their deck sort of high rarity in a way. It's actually not necessary, but competitive Pokemon TCG remains accessible to students and players on a tighter budget. Since card rarity does not affect gameplay, budget-conscious players or students can purchase the standard versions of the cards they need and remain equally competitive in tournaments. So, one of the ways I like to save money is that I like to buy single cards, which are just cards that you can buy directly. You don't need to open sealed products such as booster packs or booster boxes because it doesn't guarantee you the card that you want to get. So buying single cards directly, we just spend money on directly and not blow money on packs or sealed products on a 50-50 chance on getting what we want. So this way it's much more cost efficient and budget friendly. By purchasing singles directly from local game stores or online marketplaces, players can obtain exactly the cards they need without relying on chances or gambling. So this approach greatly reduces unnecessary spending and excessive spending, makes competitive play more affordable, and allows students and new players to participate in the game without placing excessive strain to their finances. As I'm a student myself, I usually just buy singles. I don't really buy like booster boxes or packs, because I just need the cards that I want and I don't need to gamble on a 50-50 chance on getting the stuff that I need. So now that we know how much it costs, where do we check the prices before we buy online? So in Malaysia, before buying a card, we should always check the card market price to ensure they are paying a fair amount. In Malaysia, this can be done using applications such as Shiny and Collector, which provide estimated market values based on recent sales and listing. These apps actually help us understand the average selling price of a card to ensure we don't overpay for a card and reduce the risk of overpaying, especially for high demand cards. So in Malaysia, we use this. In Japan, I believe they use marketplaces such as Mercari or local hobby stores. Since the Japanese market probably uses Japanese language cards, their pricing is influenced by local demand and the domestic player base. So in contrast, Malaysia uses English language cards, which belong to a different market. So it's much more expensive, as English is sort of the main language for the Pokemon TCG around the world. So these cards are generally in higher demand across multiple regions. As a result, the prices of English cards may be sometimes even higher than their original Japanese counterparts, even when the cards have identical gameplay effects. So now that we know, how to make the 101s for the deck, where to buy, where to get, what do we need to make a deck. Now let's hop on into, joining tournaments, especially higher competitive scenes. So, for players who wish to compete at the highest level in Malaysia, we have the competitive circuit annually in Malaysia called the Pokemon Asia Championship Series. The competitive season typically begins towards the end of the year and continues until the middle of the following year. So throughout the season, players compete in official tournaments to earn recognition, improve their national rankings, and qualify for higher level international events, such as the World Championships. So within the Championship Series, there are 4 major league tournaments that players can participate in, which are the Great Ball League, Ultra Ball League, Premier Ball League, and Master Ball League. These tournaments are significantly more competitive than the normal gym battles or local tournaments because they bring together some of the strongest players from across the country in Malaysia. A player's performance is rewarded with league points, LP, which determine their overall competitive ranking within Malaysia. In addition to league points, top performing players who will receive exclusive promotional cards and other limited edition prizes that are only available through official tournaments, making them highly sought after by both competitors and collectors. So, unlike regular local tournaments, participation in these events is actually not guaranteed. Due to the large number of players that want to join these tournaments, you have to apply through a lottery system in the website. After a registration period closes, applicants receive a notification informing them whether they have been successfully selected or placed on the waiting list. This system ensures a fair method of allocating tournament slots for players who want to join, while also trying to manage the high demand for the compete in Malaysia's premier TCG events. So this is actually a very big stepping stone for players who want to join the competitive scene. This represents the first, international level tournament, and strong performances throughout the championship series not only improve a player's national standing, but also provide valuable experience competing under the pressure of high-level tournament play, which is essential for those aspiring to the qualifying for the Pokemon World Championships. So let's start with the Great Ball League. This is the first and actually the easiest sort of league tournament you can join. So the first level of Malaysia's official competitive circuit is the Great Ball League, commonly referred to as GBL. These are smaller scale, shop-based tournaments that serve as an accessible entry point for players who are new to the competitive Pokemon TCG. Compared to the higher tier leagues, Great Ball Leagues are less intimidating and provide an excellent opportunity for players to gain tournament experience while competing in an official setting. The registration fee is typically around 50 ringgit, and in return, every participant receives a booster pack and an exclusive Great Ball League promotional card featuring the official Great Ball League stamp. These promo cards are only distributed through official league events, making them valuable and one-time. You can only obtain them through one event, and it's a valuable keepsake for players and collectors alike. In addition to the participation awards, players who achieve the highest placement receive even more exclusive prizes. The top 2 and 4 finishers are awarded winner promo cards, which feature a Pokemon printed with the same Great Ball League stamp. So we have Reshiram EX here. These one-year promos are produced in very limited quantities and are distributed only through official Pokemon Asia Championship Series events across Southeast Asia. Beyond physical rewards, GBL tournaments allow players to experience the competitive environment, develop their skills, and earn recognition within Malaysia's community. For many competitors, participating in GBL events is the first step towards progressing to higher level tournaments such as the Ultra Ball League, Premier Ball League, and Master Ball League. So the next one is Ultra Ball League. So Ultra Ball Leagues, often referred to as UBL, compared to GBLs, these are UBL are larger scale competitions with higher stakes, attracting more experienced players and awarding a greater number of league points throughout the competitive season. UBL events are significantly larger in terms of player participation, with tournaments typically hosting around 200 to 500 players. Because of the increased number of participants and stronger competition, these events provide a more challenging environment where players can test their skills against some of the best competitors in the region. The entry fee for an UBL tournament is usually around 80 ringgit. Similar to Great Ball League, participants receive the same exclusive reward for taking part in, such as the 2 prospects and a UBL promotional card where they have the UBL stamp on it. So these stamp promotional cards are unique to these events and can't be obtained through regular means. So Similar to GBL, players who receive top placements receive exclusive rewards such as top 4 and top 8, receive special winner promo cards featuring Pokemon with the same Ultra Ball League stem. And as same just now, these are super limited and are only distributed throughout Southeast Asia's competitive Pokemon circuit. So yeah, and then moving onwards, we have the Premier Ball League. So the Premier Ball League, often referred to as PBL, is one of the major Tier 2 tournaments within the Pokemon Asia Championship Series. Compared to Great Ball and Ultra Ball League events, Premier Ball League tournaments represent a significant increase in competition level, attracting some of the strongest players who are aiming to earn a substantial amount of league points and improve their position in the national rankings. The scale of Premier Ball League's events is much larger, with tournament capacities reaching approximately 1,476 players. Due to the limited number of available spots and high demand for competitive players, participation is not guaranteed, and although the tournament is free to enter, we would still have to apply through a lottery system on the Pokemon event website. Only selected participants will be given the opportunity to participate in the 2-day event. Because of the size and importance of the event, Premier Ball League tournaments offer significant rewards for top-performing players. Participants who achieve a top 2 finish receive one of the highest achievements possible at this level. They receive an invite to the Pokemon World Championships, and in addition to the World Championships invitation, these players also receive exclusive promotional promo card and also a trophy to commemorate their achievement. Whereas the players who achieve top 4 receive the promo card and the trophy as recognition for the performance, but they do not receive the invitation to the Pokemon World Championships. So these rewards highlight the prestige of the Premier Ball League, as achieving a top placement requires strong preparation, consistent performance, and the ability to compete against hundreds of skilled players. So this is like an important stepping stone towards reaching the international stage outside of Malaysia. So success in this tournament can provide the opportunity to represent Malaysia at the Pokemon World Championships and compete against some of the best players from around Malaysia. So the competitive scene in Malaysia, the last one, is the Master Ball League, or referred to as the MBL. This is the highest tier major tournament within the official Pokemon Asia Championship Series circuit. It represents the peak of the competitive scene and serves as a final opportunity for players to secure their position among the strongest competitors in the region. Similar to PBL, Master Ball League tournaments award players with a huge amount of LP League points, which are crucial for determining player rankings throughout the season. And similarly, you would have to apply through a lottery system, as it's a high demand event. And due to the prestige and importance of the event, many top players compete in MBL with the goal of achieving a high placement so they can receive an invite to the Pokemon World Championships. So similar to PBL, the rewards for the players who achieve a top placement, players who achieve top 2 finish get the exclusive promo card, the trophy, and also an invite to the Pokemon World Championships. And then the top 4 receive the same. They receive the same exclusive promo card and trophy without their travel invite. So, it's a very prestigious event, and because it's the final and highest level tournament of the season, winning in the most Master Ball League represents the highest achievement within the Pokemon Asia Championship Series. For competitive players, reaching this stage requires months of preparation, continuous improvement, and strong performances throughout the season. A successful result at the Master Ball League can ultimately provide players the opportunity to represent their country on the world stage and compete against the best Pokemon TCG players internationally. So now that we're done with the competitive circuit in Malaysia, and you have a vague image of how you can participate in these competitive league events and work your way to the top, to the world championships. Now I want to talk about my early days, my humble beginnings. So I want to talk about my competitive journey in Pokemon. My first major achievement was a competitive Pokemon TCG player was during the Pokemon TCG 2024 Inter-College Cup. This tournament was a unique experience because it allowed players to compete while representing their respective universities or colleges as a team. As Pokemon is usually a 1 versus 1 player game, a 3v3 team environment was a different experience. So this tournament format was based on a 3 versus 3 team battle where each university team consisted of 3 players. Instead of competing individually, every player's performance contributed to the overall result of the team. The first team to secure 2 individual match victories would win the entire game set. This format created a strong sort of sense of teamwork within one another, as players had to support each other through their preparation, deck discussions, and strategic planning before entering the tournament. So for this event, I formed a team representing my former university together with two of my close friends. We spent time preparing our decks, practicing different matchups, and discarding strategies to maximize our chance at winning. So, although we entered the tournament with the goal of performing well, we actually didn't expect to achieve such a strong result. So, eventually, with a lot of testing and prep, we finished top 3 in the university teams in the entire tournament. So, competing against other universities and colleges throughout Malaysia, this sort of first achievement was a big shock to me, and it was a significant milestone in my Pokemon TCG journey because it was my first experience having success in such a huge competitive environment. So at the time, I felt I was at top of the world, but beyond the result itself, the Inter-College Cup taught me that importance of testing within one another, and giving advices. After the testing, if you have something to say, you have something to share, you feel like maybe your deck is lacking something, you can ask for advice. So, Pokemon is actually viewed as an individual game, but beyond that, you can also, ask for advice within one another, and then within your testing group, you can share ideas and support your, other testing teammates to improve performance. So yeah, it actually motivated me a lot to pursue a lot more like higher competitive tournaments after this, because the competitive drive inside me is like still going and stuff. So I eventually pursue higher level tournaments in Pokemon TCG scene in Malaysia. So this was 2 years ago, and then then came the 9th of May 2026. So the final tournament of the long competitive season had finally arrived after months of preparation, practice, and battles. Players from all over Malaysia gathered at the Sunday Pyramid for the 2026 MBL, the highest tier tournament of the Pokemon Asia Championship Series. This was the final opportunity for many competitors to secure enough league points and earn their invitation to the Pokemon World Championships. So the scale of the event was unlike anything I had experienced before. Approximately 1,500 players participated throughout the 2-day tournament weekend, and it brought together some of the strongest players throughout Malaysia. So the atmosphere was, very pressure, and I actually had a bit of anxiety and nervousness, but I also wanted to win. So every player came down. They wanted to win. They wanted to get their placements. They wanted to earn an invite to the world champs. So simply playing against them it's like it feels great to be at the peak of the Malaysian scene. So for me personally, this weekend felt super surreal. Standing among hundreds of experienced players and competing on such a large stage was a completely different experience compared to the small tournaments I joined before. The MBL represented the highest level of competition I've ever sort of participated in, and being able to participate itself was already a meaningful thing for me. And I knew that simply being there was not enough. I wanted to challenge myself and perform better than I usually do. So I spent hours testing for this, and I wanted to prove that all the preparation and effort I put in had some sort of significance, because in this sort of high stake tournament, a single mistake could snowball and affect the outcome of the entire tournament. So yeah. So before explaining my deck choice and what I brought to Master Ball League, I just wanted to briefly explain the fundamental mechanics of the Pokemon TCG, the prize card system. So in a standard Pokemon TCG match, each player begins with 6 prize cards placed face down at the start of the game. Whenever a player's Pokemon is knocked out by an opponent's attack, the opponent takes 1 prize card depending on how many Pokemon you've knocked out in that turn. So 1 knockout means one prize card, and the first player to take all 6 prize cards wins the game. In the current Pokemon environment, many of the strongest Pokemon are EX Pokemon, which are powerful Pokemon that typically provide stronger attacks, higher HP, and greater abilities compared to regular Pokemon. However, this trade-off is that when an EX Pokemon is knocked out, the opponent takes 2 prize cards instead of 1. So it creates an important risk-reward element and trade-off in tournaments. EX Pokemon can deal massive damage and tank high damage due to high HP, but losing one and having 1 knocked out by your opponent, that's them immediately take 2 prize cards immediately. So if a player loses several powerful Pokemon EX in play too quickly, the opponent can potentially win the game much faster. So on the other hand, there are also non-EX Pokemon, or referred to as single prizers. These Pokemon only give the opponent 1 prize card when they are knocked out. Although they may not have the same strength or durability as EX Pokemon, they offer strategic advantages by reducing the number of prize cards the opponent can take at a time. So, with this understanding of the prize card system, I chose a deck that best suited my playstyle and choice. And after months of testing different strategies and practicing with my friends, I decided to bring a single prize deck that I believe was well positioned in the current environment and metagame, Alakazam Didon Sparse, which is this deck. So Alakazam is a deck that does damage based on how many cards you have in your hand. It also has massive amounts of draw power, and in TCG, the more you can draw cards from your deck, the easier it is for you to access cards that can help you win the game. Adding the fact that it's a one prizer that can take knockouts on EX Pokemon, the game becomes easier for you and difficult for the opponent. So, I just want to talk about the ability for a bit. So Alakazam has this ability called Psychic Draw, which lets you draw 3 cards when evolved, and Alakazam does 20 damage for each card in your hand. So that gives you 60 damage already. When you have 16 cards in your hand, you can knock out 2 prize Pokemon like Dragon Ball EX. So 16 cards times 20 damage is 320 damage. So doing that on a one prizer seems insane, and you're putting your opponent on like a super pressure position. So that's sort of the trade-off they sort of face when they play EX Pokemon and such. So yeah, and going forward, so I just want to talk about now that we know what deck I've brought to the Master Ball League, let's talk about my times and experience. So the first day of the Master Ball League was structured as a best of 1 Swiss tournament consisting of 8 rounds of matches. In this format, the players are paired against opponents with similar records, and every individual game is extremely important because a single loss can greatly affect a player's chances of advancing. To qualify for day 2, players need to finish day 1 with 2 or fewer losses. This means that consistency was crucial, as players had to maintain a strong win rate throughout all 8 rounds to continue their journey in the tournament. After 8 intense rounds of competition, I finished day 1 with a record of 6 wins and 2 losses, 6-2. This result was enough to secure my place in day 2, allowing me to continue competing along the strongest players remaining in the tournament. So day 2 of Master Ball League, day 2 began at 9 a.m. and the competition became even more challenging. Unlike the best of 1, unlike day 1, where we play best of 1, in day 2 we play best of 3 format, meaning players had to win 2 games out of possible 3 games to win the whole match set. So this format tested not only the consistency of your deck, but also your skill as a player, and also to sort of analyze your opponent and the plays they make and adapt to their play style between games. So during the 4 qualified rounds on day 2, I managed to win all 4 of my matches. So this sort of perfect run secured my position in the top cut, which only the top 8 players from the entire tournament remained. Reaching the top 8 was a major milestone because this was the point where I began facing some of the strongest Pokemon players in Malaysia. These were players who had spent years competing at the highest level and also have represented Malaysia before. So every decision I made in each match became extremely important for me, and I couldn't make a single mistake. Another memorable moment from this tournament was appearing in the official tournament live stream 3 times in a single day. So, I was featured on stream, meant that people watching my matches were people from outside of Malaysia or in Malaysia, but they were being watched by the wider Pokemon TCG community, adding sort of another sort of pressure to me, but it also made the experience more fun and memorable. So at this stage of the tournament, I was no longer just playing as another competitor. I was competing on one of Malaysia's biggest Pokemon TCG stages, testing my skills against some of the best players in the country and representing the months I've prepared, and practiced for this exact time. And let me be honest, competing from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. was extremely tiring experience. The physical and mental endurance required throughout the day was something I actually never experienced before as a player. So, and we had such a tight schedule as well, where we were very limited within breaks between matches, and even finding time to properly eat lunch was super difficult. So, throughout the entire day, I had to maintain my focus through around 7 games, relying on nothing more than just a plain water and 1 piece of chicken. So I was super exhausted, and I knew that every game mattered because if I lost 1 game, I probably couldn't make it to top 4 or top 2. So, and I was competing against some of the strongest players in Malaysia. So, yeah, losing 1 could completely change, the whole momentum of the game. So, the level of competition during day 2 was also a major challenge. I wasn't just playing against normal players. I was playing against some of Malaysia's best, who already achieved high results and represented Malaysia before, as I said. So during the qualified rounds, I faced Brendan Gunn, who is the previous Premier Ball League champion. So playing against such a competitive player and, it tested my ability to perform under pressure. And after making it to top 8 cut, it became even more intense because in my first top 8 match, I played against Jason Wee, a 3-time Pokemon World Championship qualifier from Malaysia. And this was one of the biggest challenges I faced in the tournament because I was competing against a player with extensive international experience. And in the semifinals, I faced Nikki, a previous Master Ball League finalist, and also a 3-time Pokemon World Championships qualifier. So at this point, I was going up against, the best of the best, and every match felt like, going up against the best players in the country, and the pressure was like, crazy on me. So, looking back, these matches were not only about just losing or winning. It represented how far I've come as a player, and being able to play on the same level as them. So being able to compete against players with such impressive achievements showed me how far I've come along in this journey to be playing sort of on their level as well. So yeah, and eventually I reached the grand finals, which is people playing for the championship spot. So it's either you become the champion or you lose as a finalist. And eventually my miracle run came to an end as I had lost in the finals against Georgetown's Arboliva deck. After 2 intense days of playing Pokemon, this journey concluded with a loss in the finals, although the result was not the championship title I had hoped for. Reaching the finals of the 2026 Master Ball League was already an achievement beyond what I imagined. The rewards for achieving this placement made the moment even more meaningful. Top 2 finishers of the tournament receive, as I said previously, an invite to the Pokemon World Championships, as well as the Travel Award to support their journey to compete on the international stage. And in addition, the top 4 finishers receive the Mega Lucario EX promo card, and commemorating their achievements in one of the Malaysia's biggest competitive Pokemon TCG events. So, reflecting on this experience, this has become the greatest achievement throughout my competitive Pokemon TCG journey. And for starting as a casual player, participating in university competitions, and gradually climbing through local tournaments, reaching the finals of the Master Ball League showed me how far I had progressed. So, what made this achievement even more special was not just the result itself, actually, but the support I received from everyone around me. After the tournament concluded, I actually received a lot of countless support from my friends, teammates, and members of the community. So it reminded me that Pokemon TCG is actually just more than a game, and this is exactly why I keep playing it up until now. So yeah. So after the season concludes, what awaits? The best of the best, the Pokemon World Championships. After a grueling long season with players from all over Malaysia, players who finish at the top ranking of the leaderboard in Malaysia will earn an invite to the Pokemon World Championships. The Pokemon World Championships is the highest level of competition in the Pokemon TCG. Throughout the season, players accumulate achievements and league points through official tournaments, and those who finish among the top rankings in their region receive an invitation to represent the country at the prestigious event. The World Championships are usually held in the United States, US, although there have been exceptions in previous years, such as 2023 Worlds being held in Yokohama, Japan. For this year, however, the tournament will take place in San Francisco, California, in late August, bringing together the best players from around the world. The tournament spans across 3 days of intense competition. On the first day, players compete in 8 to 9 rounds of best of 3, and you're playing against international competitors. So unlike local tournaments, players are no longer competing only against familiar faces in your own local scene, but against the strongest players who come across the globe. So to advance to day 2, players must achieve a strong record during day 1. Players who lose fewer than 2 matches, I believe, don't qualify. They 2 and fewer losses qualify for day 2 or phase 2. So this makes every round extremely important. You can't be losing one and then losing another afterwards, because a single mistake can potentially determine whether or not you can make the phase 2 cut or not. So on the second day, the remaining competitors continue fighting through another series of high-level matches, aiming to secure a place in the final stages of the tournament. And finally, on the third day, one of the best performing players remain competing in the grand finals on the World Championship stage. So for me, earning the opportunity to participate in the Pokemon World Championships represents the culmination of the years of dedication, practice, and passion I've put into the game. It's not only a chance for me to compete against the best players in the world, but also a chance to present Malaysia at one of Pokemon TCG's biggest international stages. So now that that's done, let's talk about the cost. Well, what's in it for me? After earning my invite to the Pokemon World Championships in San Fran, the journey does not end at just qualifying. In fact, one of the biggest hurdles in preparing for the tournament actually just is the cost. So there are many things that need to be completed before I can step onto the international stage and compete against the best players from around the world. One of the biggest challenges for many international competitors is the visa application process. Since the World Championships are having held in the United States, players might ensure that they have the necessary travel documents before attending the event. So for me, the US visa application process is an important step. So the interview fee costs around 750 ringgit Malaysia. Fortunately, because I earned the travel award, most of my major travel expenses are covered by the Pokemon country, such as the flight and the hotel. So this reduces the cost a bit, but I'd still have to spend quite a bit to prepare for the World Championships. So it's not just the visa, but also stuff like additional expenses, such as preparing and getting the new cards from the latest set, because World Championships will be in a different format with newer sets. So getting those new cards and then getting equipment such as sleeves, those costs eventually add up. And the competitive environment changes with every new set release, so we need to test and adapt and change our decks to be able to survive in like the latest strategies and matchups. And so yeah, besides purchasing new cards, as I said, there's also smaller expenses such as sleeves and stuff, your play mats, and then dices and stuff. So those are just the small miscellaneous stuff we need. So beyond the cost, of course, the most important thing is the testing. So besides the obvious cost, preparing for the World Championships requires the time and effort you have to put into testing, playing all these new different decks, because competing at the highest level is not just bringing like a super consistent or strong deck. It requires months of preparation, analysis, and testing. So a major part of my preparation involves extensive hours of playtesting, theory crafting, studying tournament results from all around the world, and analyzing different deck patterns and strategies. So those are stuff that I could potentially be used at the World Championships, because the competitive environment at Worlds is completely different from what I will experience in Malaysia. So instead of competing against a familiar group of local players, I'll be facing against some of the best players from around the world. So they have their own unique play styles, unique experience and strategies and approaches to this game, which makes it different from just playing against local familiar faces in Malaysia. So because of this, preparation cannot be taken lightly. A deck that performs well in Malaysia might not perform the same at the world stage. So the metagame at Worlds will be completely different, include different regional trends and different metas. High skill players who spend months preparing for the same tournament probably think the same. So every decision, from deck choices to individual card choices such as techs, can potentially determine the outcome of a match. So from my side, over the past few months, I've been actively preparing by meeting with previous World Championship qualifiers from Malaysia, as well as some of the other top players in Malaysia. Through these sessions, we have arranged practice games, discuss different strategies, analyze matchups, and exchange ideas on how to build the most consistent deck for the World Championships. So these playtest sessions have been extremely valuable and fruitful for me, because I get to learn from players who have already experienced the world stage before, and their insight and advice help me identify my own weakness, as well as improve my sort of decision making and sort of sequencing as a player. So ultimately, preparing for Worlds is not just about finding the most consistent deck. It's about understanding competitive environments, adapting to metas and different environments, and continuously improving as a player. So the amount of effort required reflects the level of high competition there is at the World Championships, where every player has earned their place and is fighting for the title of becoming the best player in the world. So, before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest appreciation to everyone who has supported me throughout my Pokemon TCG journey. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the community and everyone at Mew Collectibles for providing a welcoming place for players to gather at and play at. The countless playtesting sessions and advices and discussions and the other memories we made have shaped me as a competitive player along the way. So more than just a place where I can play cards, it became a community where friendships and I've met a lot of new other friends, and I found this is why I still play the Pokemon TCG. So, and then there other is that I would like to give a special thanks to my testing group Team Revox for always supporting me throughout my preparation for the World Championships, from analyzing deck ideas, practicing different matchups, and sharing their valuable advice and insights. The sport has been like super crucial throughout my journey. So having a group of people who I can test with and constantly be better with, so be better as a player in and outside of the game has helped me a lot. And lastly, I want to thank everyone in the Malaysia Pokemon community for all the kind and encouraging words, every message, congratulations. I've received the past few months, and every gesture of support has motivated me to continue pushing forward. And it's making me more motivated to represent Malaysia on the international stage. So, as a reflection, looking back at this journey, Pokemon TCG has given me more, than just playing the game, more than just participating in tournaments and such. It's introduced me to a lot of new friends and a lot of unforgettable memories and experiences and sort of opportunities. It's given me that I never imagined when I first would start playing. So, with that being said, that's all from me. My name is Khalid, and Pokemon World Championships. Here I come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your wonderful talk again. And also, congratulations to your the semifinal. And you're going to be a participant of the World Championship this year at San Francisco. That is great. And I'm very proud of you to join such a, the precious moment. So let's move on to the Q&A section. And if you have some questions, please raise your hand and turn on the mic to speak. I think we had a question from Chin Ite-san. And okay, I have a long question from Chin Sensei. And she wrote down the question both in Japanese and English. So I'm gonna read the question in both in Japanese and in English. そうですね。あと、参加してくれてる人はなんか半々ぐらいなので、英語と日本語混ぜていきましょう。ハーリドさん、日本語で、質問に回答とかどうですか？できそうだったら、ぜひやってください。はい。はい。じゃあちょっと最初の質問、陳先生からですね。じゃあ日本語で読んで、英語で読んで、その後じゃあ答えてもらおうかなと思います。大変興味深いお話をありがとうございました。質問ではなく感想となってしまい恐縮ですが、ご講演を伺いながら日本の研究者である岡部大輔の研究を思い出しました。岡部さんはファンカルチャーにおける学習、ラーニングについて研究しています。この学習とはファン実践を通して単に技術や知識、例えばポケモンの知識などを獲得することだけを指すのではありません。他者とのコミュニケーションや競争、例えば情報交換などを通じて能動的にポケモンに関与していく過程そのものを学習として捉えています。例えば、ポケモンカードの相場を調べるといったお話を伺い、講演者ご自身が単にプレイを通じてプレイヤーとして楽しさを得ているだけではないと感じました。ゲーム外の活動においてもまるでゲームを遊んでいるような感覚で、一つ一つのプロセスを楽しみながら勝ちにいっている姿勢がとても印象深かったです。もちろんポケモン大会の競技に関するお話も大変興味深く拝聴しました。私の知らない世界を教えていただき、本当にありがとうございます。Okay, じゃあ、英語で。Thank you very much for the fascinating talk. This is more of a comment than a question, but listening to your presentation remind me of the research by the Japanese researcher Daisuke Okabe. He researches a concept of learning within fan culture. In this context, learning doesn't merely refer to the acquisition of skills or knowledge, such as knowledge about playing Pokemon through fan practice. Rather, it also encompasses the process of actively engaging with Pokemon through communication and co-creation, such as information exchange with others. For instance, when you mentioned checking the market prices of Pokemon cards, it struck me that you are not just deriving enjoyment as a player through the act of playing. It feels as though even in your non-game activities, you approach them with a playful mindset, the strategizing and going for the win step by step. Of course, the discussion about the Pokemon World Championship was also incredibly interesting. Thank you for introducing me to the new world I was completely unfamiliar with. Okay, so this is a question from Chin Sensei, and I actually have the very same impression with Chin Sensei's comment, Chin Sensei's opinion. Like while I'm listening to Hyde's talk, I found you are kind of enjoying not just the game, but also the communication. Like, as Chin Sensei mentioned, like, the checking the price of Pokemon card or, the uh, purchasing the necessary cards on the internet or on the local store is also a part of your pleasure, right? And you frequently mention the kind of the preparation, like you analyze your plans, analyze your strategies via team members or friends in preparation for the league battles. So that was part of the pleasure or enjoyment of doing Pokemon card game, according to my understanding. So, what do you think about this? ちょっとじゃあ日本語で簡単にコメントすると、陳先生が言ってくれた通り、多分ですね、ポケモンをカードゲームをやる瞬間だけじゃなくて、そのためにそのカードを買ったり、価格を調べたり、その友達と一緒にそのストラテジー、戦略を練ったりするのはすごい楽しいんだと思うんですよね。で、私も全く同じような感想を持ったんですけど、じゃあ、どういう感想を、じゃあ、ハイドさん、ちょっとなんかコメントをお願いします。英語でも日本語でも。
はい。OK。はい。まあ、日本語で、なんとなく頑
あ、
張ります。多分ゲーム、カードゲームをやる以外には、多分いろ
うん、
いろ、なんか他の楽しむことも
うん、
あると思うので、例えばカードショップ一緒にいたりとか、なんか週末のカードイベント行ったりとか、なんかそういうなんかカード探したり、ショッピングしたり、
うん、
and like buying I think besides just playing the game, you can also enjoy other stuff, like going to your shops or like finding cards
う
together
ん、うん。
and just discussion とかしたり between other players, and then of course you can make new friends as well. So I think there's
うん、
more to it than just playing the card game
は
itself.
い。
There's a lot of other aspects that you can do and enjoy, such as collecting as well. So I
う
think
ん。
that's my thought on it.
ありがとうございます。待って、待って、こんなに日本語喋れるとは思ってなかった。だって私の授業で日本語喋ったこと一回もないよね。まあいいや。ありがとうございます。いや、ちょっとこんだけ喋れると、喋れてくれて、ありがとうございます。嬉しいです。なんか、陳先生から、またなんかそれに対してコメントとかありますか？ Any, like, response from 陳先生？
あれ、喋っていいんですか？
あ、もちろんです。もちろんです。カメラもオンにして大丈夫です。
カメラは大丈夫です。
わかりました。
はい。ありがとうございます。私も、すごい、日本語お上手ですね。本当に、今の話を聞いて、まあ、先ほどの話も聞いて、すごい、私までも、楽しい気持ちになって、
うん。
多分、競技だけではなく、本当にそのプロセス、あの、プレイヤーとして、ゲームのプレイヤーだけとしてじゃなくて、まあ、ちっちゃい頃からその話を話してくれて、すごい、全部の全部が、まあ、そのファンカルチャーの中で、まあ、そういう学習だったりとか、コミュニケーションだったりとか、すごい、なんというか、あの、一つの、なんか最後の、講演の中で最後でも話してくれてたような、なんというか、最後の最後に成長とか感謝とかそういうのが、まあ話してくれてたのもすごい印象深いんですけど、それも、なんていうか、そういう気持ちまで、もう本当に最初から最後まで、まあそういう、ファンカルチャーの中ですごい大事なプロセスだなと感じました。ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Okay, so let me briefly translate what Chin Sensei just said because there are some some participants who don't speak Japanese here. So Chin Sensei also mentioned that, okay, so both of Chin Sensei and me are the scholar of fan culture or fan studies, which means like, we are interested in the fan practice, not just as consumption, but fan studies tend to find the the positive moment in the fun culture, or we would say participatory culture, because this kind of the consumption. Okay, the enjoyment of popular culture is not just a consumption, but we say, this kind of, pleasure activities are the nature's, some the civic personality or civic engagement, such as Jin Sensei just said, the learning is part of the very important moment we experience in fun culture. So from that point of view, like Jin Sensei said, the experience of Khalid, what just Khalid explained in his lecture, in his talk, is full of enjoyment, which impressed Chin Sensei so much. Any response from Khalid, maybe?
Yes, thank you for your comment. And yes, I do agree. I think it's also important that in the midst of doing fan culture research and study, you can also get to enjoy the hobby itself while you're also doing the research on social study or fan culture study. And I think from start to finish, I think because I've been doing this for quite a long time, 3 years. For me, being able to present my hobby in an academic way, and academic research is I feel like it's very meaningful for me because I feel like I can enjoy it as a hobby, but I can also treat it as something academic for me and for others, so other people can see this part of a world that they don't know about. So this sort of social study is something maybe I want to present more to others in the future as my own personal research.
ちょっとじゃあ、質問が来るのを待っている間、私の質問もしようかなと思います。Okay, so while we are waiting for further questions from the floor, I would like to ask some simple question to Khalid. ですね、じゃあ、最初のクエスチョンは、大会がすごいたくさんあったんですけど、なんていうか、どれぐらいの頻度で大会に出るんですか？ So, okay, so in your talk, you explained the 4 different levels of leagues. And in addition to that, you have some local battles, local matches at the local stores. So how often do you play? How often do you participate in this kind of leagues or tournaments? Like how many weekend per month or?
多分、普通のローカルジムバトルとか、それは週1回とか参加して、でもそういう大きなリーグとか、グレートボールとか、UBL とか、それはローテリーシステムがあって、もちろん私も、大学生なんでバイトもあるし、できれば、もちろんそのリーグ、時間があったら参加するとか、多分1ヶ月は2回マックスぐらい参加して、そこで、リーグポイントを貯まって、時間暇な時あったら、普通、リーグとか参加する。
ありがとうございます。ってことは、2週間に1回ぐらい。
そうです。
なるほど。ありがとうございます。どうしよう。英語に訳した方がいいんだろうか。So, okay, so the Hyder's answer was very simple, because he's a college student, he need to do some part-time job to earn some money, and he also has some, when he's a student, so he need to prepare for the classes, including mine. So that's why, he usually attend this kind of leagues or, the matches twice a month, every 2 weeks. Okay, thank you. So, okay, let me ask another question. So, もう一つ質問させてください。ベストオブ3の時は、同じ相手と3回戦って2回勝てばいいんですよね。で、だとすると、そのベストオブ3の時、1回目のゲームが終わった時に、2回目とか3回目をやる時に、自分のデッキの内容を変えたりしていいんですか？ So, okay, my question is about the strategy when you are doing the best of 3 match. So best of 3 means you have 3 times of the battle, if I can say, against a single person, the same player. And if you win the 2 battles among 3, that means you're a winner. So in that case, can you change or can you rearrange the deck of yourself after the first battle or second battle? Because depending on like whether you can change, you can rearrange the cards in your deck, like your strategy or your, the analysis of your opponent might be different. お願いします。
そう、そのベスト3の中で、もちろん提出した60枚のデッキの内容は、それはまあ変えません。You
変えな
cannot
い。
change.
うん。
そう、変えない。You can't change. そう、その、最初のラウンドから、その、もちろん、最後のラウンドまで、その3回
うん。
だったら、そのデッキの内容は同じです。
うん。
It's the same.
なるほど。いや、ありがとうございます。なんか、あの、いや、私、カードゲームのこと詳しくなくて、でも、なんていうか、ファン研究の中では、マジック・ザ・ギャザリングとか、あと遊戯王もカードゲームですよね。とかの話はよく出てくるんですよ。だから知識としては知ってたんですけど、具体的にそのカードゲームやる人たちがどういうことをしているのかをよく知らなかったので、とても参考になりました。So let me briefly explain what I just said in response to Hyde. Okay, so the Hyde answer was very simple. You can't change the deck between the battles in best of three match. So, like, you have to decide the deck before, studying the BO3 matches. And my response was, okay, that was very interesting because, like, in fan studies, there are some people who mentioned the card games such as Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh from Japan. And so, like, I know the names of these card games, not just the Pokemon card game, but also like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh. But I was not familiar with what exactly people are doing in these card games. So in that sense, your response was very informative for me. Okay, thank you. Also, I actually have so many questions to ask Harit, but okay, next question is, okay, the simple question, do you have some, like, the league match or tournament match, like, not just in Malaysia, but also in ASEAN area? あの、マ
You
レー
mean
シア
like,
国内の大会じゃなくて、ASEAN レベルの大会とかっていうのはあるんですかっていうのが質問です。
参加した経験とかってことですか？
で、そういう大会自体はありますか？
はい、もちろん。アジアの中でも、例えばシンガポールとかフィリピンズとか、こういうなんか、リーグシステムは多分同じだと思います。
じゃなくて、ですね、今回のその話してくれたリーグは、多分マレーシアの中で行われて、マレーシア国民がマレーシア代表として参加するための大会ですよね。それと別に、
そうです。
ASEAN 地域でのチャンピオンを決める大会とかはありますか？ So my question is, what you explained in this talk is like Malaysian national championship. Like, in order to be a representative of like Malaysia as a country, like, the Malaysian citizens are, the participants of like these leagues, right? Beside these, like, Malaysian national level tournaments or leagues, are there any kinds of like, leagues or tournaments like, open to like ASEAN citizens or Southeast Asian like people to, find to decide the ASEAN champion or something like that?
I think, 今のところはないと思うんですけど、でも3年前は2020年のアジアオープンの大大会があって、多分プレゼンテーションで見せたスライド、一枚の写真があって、そのアジアオープン、それはなんかアジアの全国で、シンガポールとかフィリピンとか、マレーシアに来て、で、みんなそこで参加する、そのアジアのチャンピオンのタイトルを手にするために。それはまあ、でも今のところはないと思いま
うー
す。
ん。なるほど。thank you for your answer. So the answer from Khalid is like there is a kind of like, the open tournament or open match for like ASEAN people, but they don't have this kind of like, the tournament recently. ってことで OK? OK。ありがとうございます。OK。ですね。今、じゃあ、参加者の方から、質問いただきました。ちょっと名前を出していいかわからないので、名前は言わないで質問だけ、読み上げます。ですね。 ポケモンカードゲームコミュニティについて教えてください。ジムバトルをする中で、どのようにコミュニティみたいなものが形成されるのでしょうか。例えば、店舗ごとにコミュニティがあるイメージなのでしょうか。英訳です。So, how does something like a community form through playing gym battles? For instance, should we picture a separate community forming around each store? すみません。なんか機械翻訳で書けたのはちょっとよくわからなかったんですけど、ですね、質問の内容は、なんかこう、今多分、トークの中で写真見せてくれて、なんかそのジムバトルとかローカルジムのバトルをやってたんですけど、なんていうか、そういう個々のポケモンショップになんかこう所属してるみたいな感覚っていうのはあるのかなっていうのが多分質問だと思います。So, okay, this is my paraphrase of this question, but I, okay, I actually have the similar question to this question. So, do you have a kind of like sense of belonging to some specific store, specific gym? Like, or the question is how the community is formed through your daily practice in your nearby store because each store provides opportunity to participate in a local gym or local tournament, right? Does this kind of practice form a sensibility or sense of belonging to any specific stores, or the community is not just tied to a specific store, but it's a kind of associated with the geography, or is it associated with some other ideas such as university or organization or whatever?
Thank you for the question. So basically, for the communities in these gym battles, is that every person has a store they go to often. For me, of course, as I said, I go to Mew Collectibles or My Toy because it's near geographically for me to my house. It's easier for me to go there, and also because I'm already a regular there. もう普通のお客さんなんで, so I know the familiar faces there, and yeah, but even though everyone has a shop they go to, different shop they go to, and they become sort of like a team, part of their shop community, and they always go and gather there. But even with all these differences, all these different stores and communities, everyone is still, of course, one community, and we always, we know one each other. We're not strangers, so we, get along with everyone in the community, regardless if you're from a different shop and I'm from a different shop. So that's, where these communities form.
OK。今の答えはすごい、簡単に言うとやっぱり、頻繁に行く自分の家の近所のショップというのがあるので、そこから多分自然発生的にコミュニティみたいなのが出来上がるっていうのが、多分回答の骨子だったかなと思うんですけど、OK。let me ask you one question in conjunction with the previous question. So, okay, how does some other parameters such as gender or ethnicity function in your community, in the local community? So, I think this question is specific to Malaysia, and I don't think this question doesn't rise in Japanese context, but I'm interested in the gender and the ethnicity or ethnic diversities or the distributions because in Malaysia roughly 60% of the population is Malaysian and maybe 20% of Chinese Malaysians and 10% of Indian origins, and so the distribution of ethnicity is the same, or in addition to that, the Pokemon card game community is a male dominant space or not? OK。ちょっとじゃあ日本語で訳しているので、その間、考えててほしいんですけど、今のそのコミュニティについての質問に重ねて、ちょっと私から聞きたいのは、ジェンダーと、エスニシティの観点で、コミュニティはどんな感じなのかというのが質問です。なぜかというと、マレーシアだと大体60%がマレー系の人で、20%ぐらいがカジン系、10%ぐらいインド系の人がいるっていう状況なので、そういう、なんていうか、エスニックグループのバランスは、ポケモンカードゲームコミュニティの中ではどうなっているのかなっていうのが一つ。もう一つ、やっぱりジェンダーの話があって、やっぱり写真を見ると男性が多かったように思うんですけれども、やっぱりポケモンカードゲームは男性の方が多いのかなっていうのが質問の意図です。じゃあお願いします。
質問ありがとうございます。やっぱマレーシアのポケモンのコミュニティの中には、マレーシアなんですけど、意外とプレイヤーの方は多分9、8、85%は中国のマレー
うん。
シア人だと思うんですけど、で、残り10%はマレーシア
うん。
人、マレー人なんで、残り5%は多分インド人だと
うん。
思うんですけど、ジェンダー的には、先生、さっき言ってた通り、男性の方が多いので、
うん。
もちろん、今、もうポケモンももっと流行ってるんですけど、最近。で、そのせいで、女性のプレイヤーが、もう、ちょっと増えてきた、
うん。
最近。はい。
ありがとうございます。Okay. So the Haidu's answer is as follows. So, okay, the majority of the players in Pokemon card game community in terms of ethnicities are Chinese Malaysian. Like, maybe like 80 to 90% of the players are Chinese Malaysians. And this is like very dominant. Also, in terms of gender, the male players are majority. ありがとうございます。じゃあ、だとすると、ですね。Okay, let me ask one more question, like, in conjunction with this one. So I found like the Chinese dominancy is a general tendency in like, the ACG culture. Like ACG means anime, comic, game culture, not just a card game in Malaysia. And I think this, like, the Chinese dominance represents their, like, economic prestige in this country, I guess, because like if you are not like rich enough to afford some consumer goods such as like not just the Pokemon card game but also the like anime, manga, or like some commodities related to like ACG culture, you have to have some money. So how do you find my observation, or how do you like so how is your observation and impression about like this situation in Malaysia? Okay, my question is, じゃない、ごめんなさい。はい、今のクエスチョンを日本語にすると、中華系の人が ACG カルチャー、アニメ、コミック、ゲーム文化の中で、やっぱりマジョリティだっていうのは、マレーシアにおいて一般的な傾向だと思うんですね。で、それはやっぱり、ACG カルチャーをやろうと思うと、楽しもうと思うと、どうしてもそのお金がないといけない。で、っていう事実があると思うんですね。で、このことについて、この私のなんか観察について、ハーリドさんはどう思うのか、この観察が正しいのかっていうのと、かつ、なんていうか、個人として、それについてどういう感想を持っているのかを聞かせてほしいな、というのが私の質問です。
Thank you for the question. I think definitely in ACG culture, there's a lot more Chinese people or Chinese fans compared to like Malaysians.
うん。
I'm also not sure what's the gain for this or the cause for this, but my assumption would mostly also be because a lot of Malaysians grew up with anime, and a
う
lot
ん。
of
う
us
ん。
like ACG culture, anime culture, and
うん。
maybe because I think because Chinese Malaysians can read like some Japanese words or kanji because it's similar to the Chinese kanji as well.
う
So
ん。
sometimes when they
う
like
ん。
watch anime, like the subtitles, they can read actually
う
like
ん。
the Japanese, just the jibaku.
うん。
So compared
う
to us
ん。
Malaysians or Malays, we don't understand directly. So maybe I think that's one reason why it's more Chinese dominant
う
for
ん。
ACG culture in Malaysia.
なるほど。ありがとうございます。簡単に訳すと、なんていうか、経済力の問題だけじゃなくて、やっぱりその文化的な近接性もあるだろうというのが、ハーリードさんの回答で、要するにやっぱり漢字が読めると、日本のそのアニメとかを字幕があったときに、やっぱりそのマレー系のマレーシア人よりもやっぱり内容がわかるから、アニメ文化とかに親しみやすくなったんじゃないかっていうのがハーリードさんの回答で、それはそうだなと思いました。OK。これに関して陳さんからもう一個質問があったので読みますね。Okay, we got another question from Chin-san, like in response to our conversation so far. The question is, it is very interesting that many of the players are Chinese Malaysians. Does this mean that Chinese player teams tend to be particularly strong in Asia? 日本語読みますね。プレイヤーのルーツとして中国系マレーシア人の方が多いというのは大変興味深いですと。そうすると、アジア地域では中国のプレイヤーチームが強い傾向にあるのですか？これどうですか？アジアの中で、中国のプレイヤーチーム、中国系の、メインランドチャイナだけじゃなくて、多分その中国系のプレイヤーが、強いのかなっていうのが質問です。
そうなんですけど、質問ありがとうございます。多分他の別の国の状況はわからないですけど、マレーシアの中には、ほぼトッププレイヤーとか、元マレーシア代表は、中国マレーシア人の方が、多
うん。
くて、
うん。
今のトッププレイヤーでも、多分、トップ20は多分、中国までだと思うんですけど、今回のワールド
うん。
世界大会の代表は12
うん。
人なんで、その11人の中には中国人だと思います。で、私は一人のマレーシア人なんで、それは、
おー。
まあ、マレーシアの状況はそういうです。
ありがとうございます。OK。ちょっとじゃあ訳しておくと、OK。So the Hyde's answer was, OK. He's not familiar with the situation in other countries than Malaysia, but what he explained the situation in Malaysia. So he said the top 20 players are mostly like Chinese, Malaysian, or ethnic Chinese, even in Malaysia. And this year, 11 players are selected for uh, the World Championship held in San Francisco. Then among 11 players, the Hyde is the only one who is not a Chinese Malay ですね。チャイニーズマレーシアンですね。はい。なので、少なくともマレーシアでは、その華人系のプレイヤーが強いということらしいです。OK。OK。I am interested in this kind of, like, the intersection between, like, the ethnicity, language, and game. And my next question is about the price or the prices of the Pokemon cards. So the Pokemon cards, the prices of Pokemon cards are the same all over the world because, like, you mentioned the price of the package, and that seemed a little bit higher than I expected. I guessed from the national GDP or of Malaysia. And okay, so for the ordinary person in Malaysia, the one package of the Pokemon card is quite little bit expensive than their, the average, income. So my question is like, the card prices are same all over the world or not, or depending on the languages. Because like if the prices are different depending on the GDP of each country, like, okay, so just imagine if you are American, if you are from the citizen of the United States, you can travel to some other English-speaking countries such as Malaysia or India to purchase the tons of the card, like at a relatively cheaper price. So, like this kind of, the economic differences between the countries might affect the competitivity of players. So, my question is, how, like, economy, language, and GDP, like, intersect each other? ちょっと日本語で話すので、ちょっと考えててください。ポケモンカードの値段って世界中で一緒なのかなっていうのが私の疑問です。なんでかっていうと、ハーディオが説明してくれた1個のパッケージのポケモンカードの値段は、なんか マレーシアの GDP、一人当たり GDP とかから考えると、ちょっと高いなって思ったんですね。で、だとすると、仮にポケモンカードゲームの値段が世界中で同じじゃないと、いろいろ結構不都合なことが起こると思うんですよ。例えば、マレーシアは英語圏だから、もしアメリカ人だったら、アメリカでお金を稼いで、そのお金を持って、他の英語圏、マレーシアとかインドに旅行して、比較的安い、相対的に安い価格でポケモンカードをたくさん買えば、より簡単にたくさんのカードを手に入れて強くなれるわけですよね。で、そうなるとやっぱりアンフェアなことになっちゃうので、じゃあ、ポケモンのカードの価格と言語とその国ごとの GDP、経済力っていうのは、なんかどういう関係にあるのかなっていうのが質問です。じゃあ、お願いします。
Thank you for the question. So actually, as you said, the Pokemon pack prices here are also have been quite pricey recently. and
うん。
also measuring like Malaysia's average income as well as the GDP. As you said, it also doesn't match because nobody wants to pay like 30 ringgit above,
う
for
ん。
a pack of cards. But at the moment, we don't actually have such an issue where 海外の人 such as maybe Americans come to Malaysia to buy the cards
うん。
at a cheap price and then go back to the country and resell it because actually they can buy theirs over there for their own price. Also because ours is much more limited, so there's actually not much things to buy here. As Americans, they have their own stock and supply, so economically they're fine. But one thing I do want to mention is that a lot of foreigners and tourists go to Japan to buy the original Japanese products
う
because
ん。
Japan gets it first. And because the economic state of Japan right now, compared to like America, where America has a higher buying power with the USD compared to Japanese yen, so a lot of them travel to Japan and buy a lot of like the packs and sealed products for a very like cheap yen price because of their high buying power in USD. And what they do is that they buy it and then they go back to the home country and probably resell some of the stuff they bought for a higher price. So from there, this is an issue that's been going on for a bit in Japan's Pokemon market for a while.
ありがとうございます。まず、マレーシアでのポケモンのカードのパッケージの価格が、そのマレーシアの平均的な収入と比べて高いというのは、その通りだということでした。で、じゃあ、アメリカの人が、そのマレーシアとかインドに来て、なんていうか、購買力の差を利用してたくさん爆買いするみたいなことは、まあ、あんまりないと。まあ、多分なんていうか、あの、まあ、そもそもなんていうか、飛行機代を考えたら、そんなにそこまでするほどのことじゃないっていうのはあると思うんですけど、実際ないと。ただ逆に、アメリカの、外国人の旅行者が日本に行って、日本で、カードを買って、アメリカ国内で再販するというようなことはあると。で、それは現在、あの、円安だから、円が安いから、そういうことをする人はいるっていうのが、ハイドの回答でした。Okay, so thank you very much for the answer. But actually, your response made me think another question. So, like as you said, like the Pokemon card game available in Japan is a Japanese language, right? So, but you can use a Japanese language Pokemon card game in the official games in like United States or in Malaysia, right? So I'm just curious why people purchase like Japanese language Pokemon card from Japan to resell in like United States, like because these like Japanese language cards are not usable in like the games, right? Just because like
Yes.
they have a value as a collectibles.
Yes, that's correct.
おお。ちょっと待って、全部を訳せないで。なんでアメリカ人が日本に来て、日本語のポケモンカードを買うのかっていうのが質問だったんですね。なんでかっていうと、日本語の、ポケモンカードを買っても、アメリカとかマレーシアではゲームで使えないのに、なんでそんな買うのって聞いたら、単に収集品として人気があるっていうのが答えでした。I think that this is very like interesting phenomena because like, like you are a genuine player because, and you said like, okay, you don't, in your lecture, you said you don't purchase the like starter package or booster package because you directly into the specific cards you would like to use in the game, right? But what you have just explained is different attitude to, your own because like, some people travel to Japan and they purchase like, some maybe expensive one or some, the booster pack or like, the starter pack or whatever to bring them back to their own countries to resell it. And that is not because they would like to use it in the game, but they simply like evaluate the collectible values of these Japanese language Pokemon cards. That is very interesting because, like, some people, as a players, like they focus on the game ability or, the importance of the card as a game. At the same time, there are some other people who put much value on the collectible or some visual aspect or like some other aspect like other than gaming. なので、すごい、what do you think about this?
So, and まあ、もちろん、プレイヤー的にじゃなくて、コレクタ
うん、
ー的には、なんかこういう問題は普通、まあ、最近
うん、
は普通だと思いますけど、
うん、
それはたまに、ポケモンの、なんか、
うん、
マーケット
うん、
的には、ちょっと、問題になっちゃいそうなんですけど、because a lot of these foreigners buy a
うん、
huge amount of these Japanese products and packs and booster boxes, and actually in Japan, they implemented like a buying limit, a purchase
うん、
limit, where if you walk into your convenience, you can only buy a maximum of three
うん、
packs and you
う
can't
ん、
buy any more. So this is sort of Japan's way to counter scalpers or people who buy excessively a huge
うん、
amount so they can resell these packs back in their home country.
うん、
So this, of course, is a whole entire new discussion, which is it's for collectors or
うん、
investors, people who will look at it solely for the price they go for, not because
う
they
ん、
play the game, but because they only want to focus on the money that they can get
うん、
back from
うん、
doing this sort of, buying and reselling overseas.
うん、
So eventually, this leaves a bad mark on the Pokemon sort of market and economy. A
うん、
lot of these like packs they become harder to purchase, and the players can't get what they want because nobody
う
can
ん。
buy the products and such. So yeah, it's become a bit of a problem, 最近。
ありがとうございます。簡単に私の質問とハイドさんの回答を言うと、結局日本で、まあ、円安を利用して、たくさん日本語の、ポケモンカードを買って、例えばアメリカとかに持って帰ってコレクターに売るっていうのが、なんかプレイヤーとしてどうなのかなと。プレイヤー、ハイドさんはもう自分が必要なカードだけをピンポイントで買うと。で、一方で、そうじゃないコレクターもいると。で、その状況下で、なんていうか、日本に来て爆買いしたカードをアメリカに持って帰ってしまうとどうなのみたいなことを聞いたんですけど、そうすると、なんか、プレイヤー、ゲームプレイヤー、カードゲームプレイヤーとしては、それはやっぱりなんか、問題を引き起こしてるみたいなところはあるよねっていう話でした。要するにゲームのプレイヤーが必要なカードを入手できなくなるのは、なんかまあ、元々のその想定ではないことなので、ちょっと困るよねっていう話でした。Okay, thank you for the answer. So, I would like to ask another question. This is the last question, and I'm afraid this is might be a little bit tough question, but I need to ask this question because I'm a scholar of popular culture and fan culture and cultural studies. So, my question is, okay, so what do you think about the fact that the entire ecosystem of Pokemon card game is a promotion of the Pokemon company or the Pokemon business as a whole. What I mean here is, okay, so the Pokemon card game is a fun, but I mean, the company of Pokemon or Nintendo designs and produce these card games and, organize these events as a promotion of their product to, maximize their profit from like the entire Pokemon franchise. So, okay, in the previous question, you said like collectors are somehow problematic for the game players, but this theory, this argument can be applicable to the entire situation because because okay, the Pokemon company or the Nintendo company provides these opportunities to the the consumers to for their own profits. So okay, my question is like this. So what do you think about this entire, the ecosystem? じゃあちょっと日本語で話しますね。ちょっとなんか最後の質問は若干、ちょっとなんか意地悪な質問でごめんなさい。えっと、要する、ですね、今、ポケモンのコレクターがポケモンのカードゲームのプレイヤーにとって、やっぱりたくさん買われると問題だっていう話があって、それはそうだと思うんですけど、でも同時に、そのポケモンカードゲームっていう、なんていうかこう、商品や、ポケモンカードゲームの大会っていうものが、全体として、このエコシステム全体が、ポケモンというフランチャイズの商品を売るために設計されているビジネスだっていうのは一つ言えると思うんですよ。で、この事実に対しては、じゃあ一プレイヤーとして、ハリドさんがどう思うかなっていうのが最後の質問です。
Thank you for the question. So, of course, I understand the nature of advertisement,
うん、
and Nintendo, sells these products to make a
うん、
profit.
うん、
And of course, their audience is that they want people to buy their products,
うん、
excessively at a large amount. Um, for collectors, I think it's no problem because people have been collecting for a long time already. I think the proper word or term here is for is like we call them resellers or scalpers. And while it's good that the company profits from people excessively buying these products, but it also damages the player base, which is what I think they also prioritize the players as well, which is they are the ones keeping the game alive and the franchise alive, the people who play the game. So I think it's a bit detrimental and maybe a little hypocritical also that they prioritize one side of the community and not the player side of the community. So I think that's where there should be a fine line and balance between those two, because it's important for people to buy the products. It's also important for people to play the game that it was made for, because I believe they are trying their best to balance both sides of this community as well.
ありがとうございます。ちょっと私の若干意地悪な質問だったんですけど、回答としては、もちろんそのプレイヤーとして、なんか全体的なエコシステムが、なんていうかビジネスの目的のために動いていることは、認識しているし理解していると。で、なんか一プレイヤーとしては別にコレクションとしてカードを集める人が悪いと言ってるんじゃなくて、そうは言ってもなんていうか、コレクションとしてのカードをやってる人と、ゲームとしてのカードゲームをやってる人の間のバランスがちゃんと取れるように、なんかうまい調整は、してほしいよねっていうのが、ハリドさんの回答でした。OK。じゃあ、ありがとうございます。thank you very much for your wonderful talk and very productive conversation after the talk. From, すごい楽しかったです。as I said
ありがとうございます。
previously, I enjoyed both your talk and the Q&A so much because, as Chin Sensei said, this is a very new opportunity, which I'm not familiar with. So, thank you again for your time, Haji-san. Do you have any, final words to the audience? Any, なんか、どうぞ、なんか最後にもし、ワールドチャンピオンシップへ向けての抱負とかあれば。
I just want to say thank you, Watabe Sensei, for turning this academic lecture opportunity. And also, 参加した方も、本当に最後まで見てくれてありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
I'm happy to introduce Pokemon as sort of an academic thing. And I wish to do more of this from more of an academic perspective for social science research, maybe further in my years, in my last few years of degree. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございました。皆さん、拍手でお送りください。ありがとう。はい、ありがとうございました。